my kind of default coaching approach to this is we have to have this line in the sand moment where we say and declare video is too important in my business. I will never stop doing it
Oh, I
ever.
love that.
I will never stop to the ends of the earth until, right, I believe Jesus is coming back or an asteroid hits us, right? Whatever it is, I'm never going to stop creating video content because it is the absolute greatest opportunity for me to be in front of people. And so
Mm.
if that's the baseline, now we can look at some of the metrics, but we never allow them to get too deep in us where I go, "Ugh, this isn't working. I'm not going to do this anymore." Because, Jonathan, we live in a world now where literally any famous person on the planet could see a video of mine and my life can change overnight.
Hi, and welcome to the 91 Day Success Podcast. We're thrilled to have Coach Kyle Draper with us today as we talk about social marketing, video marketing, and all kinds of things. I'm so excited to have Kyle here because Kyle is an expert at video and a lot of other things too. But really, he just knows video and he's got it nailed down. He had so many great things to share in his book about rethinking social media, and I'm just excited to be able to interview with Kyle today. But Kyle, for those of the audience that may not know who you are, can you give us the 30-second elevator pitch and tell us who's Kyle and what makes you who you are?
Yeah, Jonathan, of course. So I am a pastor turned roofer. Then I built websites for real estate agents. And then now for 6+ years, I am what I call a video marketing therapist because I spend my time talking people off the ledge that are uncomfortable in front of the camera, talk people onto the ledge that need to be a little bit bolder in their attempt to be in front of people. And so that's me in a nutshell. I guess I've got, if for people that want to know, I've been married 13 years. I've got my third child that'll be here in a matter of weeks. And it's busy times in the Draper house right now.
So cool, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Man, that is so exciting. I'm a little beyond that, but we just had our second grandson, and
Wow.
I tell you, kids are great. Grandkids are amazing. Mainly
I
because we
can't
get to
wait.
hand them back to our kids when we're done. So
That's right. You just get to borrow them.
absolutely. Congratulations. That's an
Thank you.
exciting time of life. I appreciate it. You mentioned that you used to be a pastor and then a roofer and that. And one of the things I wanted to do to begin the conversation, Kyle, tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming the video marketing therapist that you are today. And how did that shape your unique take on both video and social media?
Yeah, Jonathan, I didn't do any of it on purpose. I wish I were
I
smart
love
enough
it.
to say, I plotted this out and I knew what my 20-year plan was. I just kept felling my way forward. And so I spent about a decade as a youth pastor, really felt like I was going to do that for my entire life. One day woke up feeling like I could make a greater impact in people's lives outside of the church. And so I get into roofing, and roofing is where I started learning sales, marketing, social media. It coincided when I got into roofing, Facebook launched Facebook Live. And and you remember this, like we were all
Oh, yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh, live video." It actually was Periscope first and then Facebook Live was shortly
Yep.
thereafter. And so here I am, a roofer in Oklahoma, going live from the rooftops of houses. I don't know what I'm doing. And I was just doing what I thought would potentially help us. And so what ended up happening was I'm doing all these videos, I'm networking with people. The first hailstorm comes through Oklahoma, and I get 100 phone calls in the first 24 hours.
Wow.
And so while all these other roofers are out there knocking doors, I'm sitting in my living room, just answering the phone, returning text messages, going, "Oh my gosh, this works. This is unbelievable." And so that was the moment where I realized I think I'm doing something that others aren't doing because what I was watching is most business people on social media, they were really just using social media to promote their business.
Hmm.
And I was using social media to educate around my business so that people would see me as an expert, not a salesperson, and it worked. And so over the course of those years, building websites for realtors and now coaching and speaking across the country, what I found is that most people that are going to listen to this podcast, they were taught social media through the lens of how to sell more of whatever it is that you sell. And so from the very beginning of their effort was perverted because that's not what social media was designed for. And so the reason therapist showed up in my title was that I have to really spend a lot of my time helping you rethink the way you show up online, helping you reestablish that like your goal on social media should be to establish trust with people, not sell them anything.
Absolutely.
And so that's been my journey. And um, like you said before we started, you're like, man, we need help. I was like, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to give and give. And man, it's helping unlock a lot of people so that they can show up online and serve at a greater level than they currently are able to.
No, I think that's just so amazing. And we've seen this exact same thing with our business. We decided, hey, look, we've got to get video out there. We're going to focus on education, sharing, promoting, not ourselves, but promoting others, like with this podcast and
Yeah.
trying to figure out how do we serve others, just like you said. And it has just, you're right, it makes a huge difference. And I think the hard part for so many business people is it doesn't make a huge difference this Friday. It
Right.
makes a huge difference maybe 3 months down the road or 6 months down the road,
Yeah.
maybe a year down the road. But if you're not consistent through that, you never have that watershed moment that you did in your living room when you had 100 phone calls come in and all your competitors were out there knocking on doors. You've
100%.
gotta you gotta plant the fields, you've gotta nurture, you gotta make that ready, and education's the way to do that. You talk in your book, Rethinking Everything You Know About Social Media. You really, at least from my perspective, I felt you emphasized the importance of storytelling. Can you
Yeah.
explain a little bit from your perspective, Kyle, why is storytelling so important when it comes to social media and video?
I think most simply put, storytelling doesn't have the word sales in it.
Yeah.
And so when we're telling stories, nobody feels sold to. And so, like for me, I work with a lot of real estate agents and lenders. What are they bad at? They just post a closing photo and they say, "Thank you, Jonathan, for allowing me to help you buy a house." And I'm sitting there going, "Who's Jonathan?
Hmm.
Give me a little bit about who he is. What need did he have when he showed up? What were you able to help them overcome?" And now, if you're unpacking Jonathan's story, I'm now able to go, "Man, I see parts of myself in Jonathan. I think that maybe this person needs to help us buy a new house." And that
Absolutely.
happened through the unpacking of the story. And so most people, we just get so lazy and we're so uncomfortable on social media anyway that we just take the path of least resistance, which is I'm going to just sell crap to people over the internet because you can't punch me in the face when you're annoyed by me. And we lose the ability to be relatable. It's why we all have memories of telling a story around a campfire, telling a story at a gathering, because we remember the moments where we can see ourselves in them.
Oh, so true. Having been not that I was, but since you were a pastor in the past, it reminds me so much of growing up. And the church I went to was not a storytelling church. And I was bored all the time. And every once in a while, we'd have a guest pastor come in and they would tell stories.
Yeah.
And I remember as a youngster, I'd go home and I'd be all excited. And my parents are like, well, what was different? I'm like, he told a story. But
Yeah.
and again, whether we're talking church or we're talking business here, I think that storytelling really fits in across the board. Like you said, I love the example. You're working with a real estate agent or you're working with a closing agent or anybody like that. And that lender posts that photo. You're right. That's okay. Great. I know you did mortgages, Kyle. Thank you. Now, help me connect with you at an emotional level. Help me make those connections through some simple storytelling. Let me ask you this. How do you recommend that business owners do that? I think we struggle when we look at what we do. We're experts in our field and we know what
Yeah.
we do. And a lot of us do really want to serve. But how do we make that transition with that picture of us as a lender and our
Yeah.
client? How do we transition to the story? What needs to happen in our heads to make that happen?
I think the easiest first step is to simply ask, like, when you've got the post ready, to ask yourself, does what I'm about to post help people trust me more or less?
Oh, good question.
Typically, if the post is based in what's in it for me, the answer to that question will be no. If the post is based in what's in this for others, then the answer to that question will typically be yes. And so usually, uh, pretty much any business person I've ever worked with, they're one extra sentence away from changing the dynamic of what they're about to post.
Oh, I like
It's not that their post is awful. We don't It's not that we need to stop posting closing photos if you're in real estate and mortgage. It's that we need to reshape the way we define that, right? So
mm,
it could be as simple as replace the word sells with serves. You didn't sell 10 things, you served 10 families. And just that simple, subtle shift, that takes you from being selfish in nature and now being a giver. And so that's really where I start. I don't think it needs there's incredible authors and speakers out there that truly are storytelling masters. And I don't think that somebody needs to go take one of those people's courses before they deem themselves a storyteller. They just need to add 10 to 12 words that give us a little extra insight into what's going on behind the scenes. And now all of a sudden, to me, you are considered a storyteller.
I love the way you put that, Kyle, about so many times we're just a sentence or two away from making that a story instead of a statement and not making it about us, but making it about our customers.
Right.
It
Like
reminds me
one of
so
the
often. Go ahead.
if I tell you one of the things I love to do, right, as a speaker that travels, I tell people all the time, if you have time to beg for business on the internet, you're not as successful as you want people to think you are.
Oh, that's good.
And so I watch people in my field, speakers, post stuff like, "Hey, if you need a speaker, hey, if you need a," and what I watch is you don't have any business right now. Because if you did, you wouldn't have time to ask that question on Facebook. And so what I love to do is instead of bragging about where I'm speaking, I use my stories on Facebook and Instagram and I take a picture at security at the airport. And I'll say something like, "Why do I love this? I'm such a weirdo that I thoroughly enjoy waiting in line at the airport in security." And so now I'm navigating the waters of my travels
Hmm?
and letting you go, "Dang, man, where was Kyle last week? He was in Vegas last week, and now he's in Michigan, and now he's in Florida. That he's freaking doing it." And I never
Well,
have to brag about it. It's just
I
a
was
part of the story.
I love the way you turn that into a story. Instead of saying, "Wow, I'm here in Miami and I'm gonna be speaking at this conference." While you can say that, you're adding to that who you're talking to and what you're doing and why you're there
Right.
and the value that you're bringing, the change that you're gonna impact with these people. Again, it reminds me of a my sales coach many years ago. He told me, "Remember, it's WIIFM. What's in it for them? Everybody wants to know
It's
what's
good.
in it for me." And it's really that same thing as business owners now as we're navigating these waters and figuring it out. It's not about the features and advantages and benefits of the product or service we're selling. It's how is that service or product going to make our clients, going to make our clients' lives better?
Yeah,
That's really what it boils down to. And if we can tell stories about that, then it resonates with them. Oh, I love that.
100%.
Love that. So I know that a lot of entrepreneurs and business people are hesitant to put themselves out on video in particular. Talk to me a little bit about how do you encourage that business owner who is truly an expert at what they do? They're well spoken, they're professional, and for whatever reason, they get in front of a camera and they freeze. It's deer in the
Yeah,
headlights,
yeah.
or they're just mentally convinced that. How do you help them through that, Kyle?
Jonathan, what I've learned is it's easier to increase what we care about instead of decrease what we're fearful of. And
Mm.
so what I do is when somebody's fearful of the camera, what are people going to think? Look how fat I am. I look at, ugh, my voice sounds like nails on a chalkboard. It's impossible for me to go, dude, get over it. Get over yourself. That's impossible. And so what I've learned is if I can help them tap in to what are you trying to accomplish? Why do you do what you do? And so what I've developed is like my superpower is that I care more about helping people than I care about looking stupid.
Oh, that's good.
And that's it for me. I will go to the ends of the earth to create value for people. And so do I still have fears? Of 100% I do because I'm a human being, right? So I care what people think about me. I do think a side note, all the people out there that are like, "Oh, I don't care what people think." The fact that you have to say that out loud means that you care the most about what people think about you because
Mm.
we're human beings. And so if we can overcome fear with what we're hoping to accomplish, that to me is really what's paved the way for people to go from incredibly fearful to doing this every day. And it's also the realization that like I'm a speaker for a living. So I have a different level of expectation, probably even than other of your guests, right? When you're just interviewing business owners, they're not professional communicators. They're business
Mhm.
owners, right? Their nose is in a spreadsheet all day. They're not commanding attention from a stage. And so there's a different pressure for me when people find out what I do for a living versus a normal business person. And so your people, they don't want you showing up as this super polished, perfect version of yourself because that's not the version of yourself that they hung out with the other night, right? When
So
y'all were
true.
drinking a beer or having dinner or drinking coffee, you flubbed your words and you forgot what you were going to say. And your friend didn't look at you and go, God, you're an idiot. Like, how,
Mm.
you're so dumb. Nobody thinks that because that's natural human behavior. And so when I can get people to be accepting of their natural human behavior in front of the camera, it gives them the most freedom, but it also helps them show up in the most authentic way to their people. And so that's really the goal for me is just that simple mindset shift.
Mm. So true, and I think so absolutely relevant to so many business owners today in that, and it's be authentic. Don't worry if you flub a little bit. Again, you did it when you're having coffee or a beer with them anyway, and like you said,
Right.
nobody jumped down your throat and said, "Oh man, I'm
Right.
not going to work with you." Not at all. Be authentic. We're so far past the days of perfect lighting and perfect scripting and perfect everything. Those were the soap operas that my mom watched growing up. Those are
Right.
not
Yep.
what we're doing today, and it's not what anyone wants to see on video today. We're sitting there, my wife and I were watching YouTube Shorts on our TV last night. There was nothing perfect about any
Right.
of them, but we probably watched them for an hour
That's right.
because it was engaging and it got us excited, and we found different things that were funny, and we're laughing and having a great time. Wasn't a movie, it wasn't a
Yeah.
production, but it was engaging, and I think that's what I personally, I'd love to encourage more business owners to, like you said, take that risk, get out there. I'm the prime example. People watch an old fat guy like me, they'll watch anybody.
That's right.
You just need to add value to their lives and what they're doing. No, I man, what you're saying so resonates with me. I'm sorry, I need to let you talk more, but
But Jonathan, let's take it even further. Think about when I get to come up and hang out with you guys in person one of these days, and if I walked in with with a stack of index cards, and because I was so nervous that we wouldn't know
oh,
what to
good
talk
one.
about, and so I come in with a stack of questions, and I pull them out, and I'm like, Jonathan, man, this is so great. Let me ask you some questions. Like, what's your favorite color? And then you answer it, and then I'm like, oh wow, what's a time in your life when you were afraid and what happened? And you're gonna go, what is happening right now?
Mm,
Why are you holding these cards? Why are you being so weird? Right? The reason we can take an hour coffee and turn it into a 3-hour coffee is because there are no agendas. There's no path I'm trying to take you down. We are just two people trying to get to know one another. And so if we would take the approach to video of, if you'll say it at coffee, say it on video. Expand the way you do video. Talk about the things that you talk about at coffee. Tell some of the stories that you tell at coffee so that now people don't just see you as a business person, but they see you as a human being. And it's just such an easy way to expand. What are you allowed to talk about on video? I don't know. What'd you talk about at coffee yesterday with one of your friends?
Mhm.
And it's a game changer when we allow that way of thinking to begin to take over.
Oh, yeah, and it reminds me in your book you were talking, I'm gonna get the words wrong, but you were talking about speaking with people instead of speaking at people.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, what you're talking about here is it's so important to have that conversation. Talk a little bit from your perspective. I know one of the things I struggle with is I post a lot of content. Some of it gets a lot of responses, some of it gets crickets, not a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
How do you maintain a conversation when some of your content may get a lot of views, but doesn't get any feedback or many comments? How do you recommend that business owners and entrepreneurs engage and improve that conversational side of social media?
I, th- this is a hard question because my default answer, I want it to just be, you have to stop caring about that stuff. I
Fair
I'm not
enough.
an analytics person, and part of that is I'm not smart enough to be an analytics person, so it was
I love
easy
it.
for me to go, I'm not gonna be what I already am not. I have tons of friends that are super nerdy and really smart and techie, and so they data to them is like nourishment for their soul, and so that's great for them. But for the common person that's trying to do this better, we have to be careful not to let those metrics cause us to lean too heavily in one direction or the other. And so my kind of default coaching approach to this is we have to have this line in the sand moment where we say and declare video is too important in my business. I will never stop doing it
Oh, I
ever.
love that.
I will never stop to the ends of the earth until, right, I believe Jesus is coming back or an asteroid hits us, right? Whatever it is, I'm never going to stop creating video content because it is the absolute greatest opportunity for me to be in front of people. And
Mm.
so if that's the baseline, now we can look at some of the metrics, but we never allow them to get too deep in us where I go, "Ugh, this isn't working. I'm not going to do this anymore." Because, Jonathan, we live in a world now where literally any famous person on the planet could see a video of mine and my life can change overnight. That's a real legit possibility, right?
Absolutely.
Right this second. There are people out there talking about you. There are people out there talking about me. They're considering hiring us for our service. They're considering hiring me to speak. There's people you've asked to come on the podcast and they're watching content to determine, am I going to say yes to go be a guest on the show? And so if we get fixated on, did that video bring you business? That's a horrible first question because the answer 99% of the time is either no or I don't know.
Yep.
But I do know that there are people out there going, man, have you read Kyle's new book? Man, I was at an event the other day that Kyle spoke at. Holy cow, that dude is different. And so now that friend goes to the internet and says, okay, let's go see how different this Kyle guy is. And if all they find are some picture images and some quote graphics, they're not going to have the esteem for me that their friend wanted them to because they can't experience the same thing that their friend did. This is why it's so powerful for us to show up in this method, being in front of the camera.
Man, we could stop the podcast. That was just stellar, man. Oh, I love that. I'm not gonna stop, but that was worth it, the price of admission right there. Talk to me about that because, okay, we're all human. We all want to see that we're having some impact. And maybe, and I agree with you, it's not right to go, like I said, if I create that video today, it's not going to generate me business tomorrow. It's just not how it works in 99.99999% of the cases.
Yeah.
But as a business owner, I've got a bit of an ego. Everybody does. What should I be paying attention to find out? One, is what I'm doing resonating with my audience? Because if it's not, I
Yeah.
need to make changes. And two, how do I learn what I can do to improve to continue to serve my audience better? Any
Sure.
advice there?
Yeah. So in my book, I take a very backward approach. Most people are going to say, go find out what people want and give that to them. My approach is slightly different, and it also varies between what your profession is. For most of my audience, they're small business owners that sell in a local place.
Yep.
So if you're selling trinkets across the internet to anyone in the world, yes, you want to try to go viral. You want to try to hit the hot button topics. But when we're local business owners that only need a few hundred people truly paying attention to us to move the needle in our business, my motto is don't give people what they want, give them what they need. Because if you're trying to sell your service to someone, they may not need you today, but next week when they need you, they better be able to find content based on the need that they have.
So
And so if
true.
I just play into people are on social media to be entertained, all right, cool. I guess I'll have to be a funny guy and do a bunch of silly stuff. If that's you, awesome. Lean into that as a strength of yours. But at the end of the day, I want people to hire me to speak. I want people to buy my book. I want people to be a part of our service. And that's not going to happen if I'm just out there trying to entertain the masses so that I can go viral to feed my ego.
No, I love it.
And so
It-
I have to put my ego aside and remind myself this isn't about me. I'm not creating video content to pat myself on the back. I didn't write a book to feel cool. I did all these things to serve people. And I don't know how many people it'll allow me to serve, but I'm not going to shift what I believe they need to just go feed my ego with what they want.
no, that's so good. It reminds me, not too long ago, I interviewed a peer that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. His name's Matt Plapp. He runs America's Best Restaurant, and he markets to restaurant owners. That's his
Okay.
niche. I don't know how to say it.
I
Niche,
say
whatever.
niche.
Anyway, that's who he works with. But Matt made a comment. I'd love your feedback on this. He has had tremendous luck encouraging, in this case, restaurant owners who, again, primarily local, to not focus so much about the pizza special today or the burrito special today or the lunch special, but to get on video every single day. And he recommends while you're driving into the restaurant, get on and talk about what are you doing today? Talk about, yeah, maybe you're getting a new shipment of veggies in or you're getting your meat in, and you can talk about that. Again, telling a story, but also for local. And I agree, we deal with tons of local as well. Talking about what's going on. Talk about the high school football game. Talk about the high school person that just got signed up to go to this great big university because they're a stellar sports star, or the debate team that just won, or whatever it is. Talk about local events and be known as the local person, because that's going to then bring people in your community to know and trust you. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think your friend is spot on. I love the saying, use your social media to run for digital mayor of your city,
Oh, that's
right?
good.
Be the person so that when your city is said out loud, people are like, "Do you know Kyle?" Kyle is like the guy when it comes to all things about our city. For the restaurant perspective, I would even take it a step further and I would say, "Hey, restaurant, why don't you go do interviews with other restaurants in the city?
Great
Go
idea.
like you're a Mexican restaurant. Go interview the Italian restaurant. Go interview the taco shop. Go interview the sushi place. Go raise everybody's ships because
Mm,
yours is getting raised in the process, right? The power of your podcast, the power of my podcast. I interview people on almost all of my episodes for the same reason that you do. And so when it happens, they add a ton of value to my audience, but then they share the content and it introduces me to new people. And you get this.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
man, I don't think that most of the people in the business world understand that you can gain more through giving than you ever will by just trying to grasp for as much as you can to benefit yourself.
Kyle, that's it. It reminds me of a concept we used to talk about a couple years ago with social media before we were sharing video everywhere. And that was the concept that we would encourage business owners to share content from their area of expertise, but not that necessarily they create it. So again, I'm in the digital marketing space. I might share something you put out. I might share something Neil Patel puts out, Gary V puts out. Who
Yeah.
knows? But by doing that and introducing that to my audience, even if Gary V never recommends or says anything about Jonathan Mask or Valorous Circle, it's okay because by sharing that and being consistent, my audience now goes, man, when it comes to digital marketing stuff,
Yeah.
this Jonathan guy, he knows he's got his poop in a group. He knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing you say? The same type of thing? Help others out, being known as, I love that digital mayor, run for digital mayor. What a great concept.
Yeah, I would even take it a step further. Like, sharing to me should be the bottom of the barrel. That's the
Okay.
bare minimum requirement. I think most people do themselves a disservice when they share without adding any of their own opinion above the share,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because again, it's amazing how many people I talk to that still don't even know who Gary Vee is. So if all I do is share a Gary Vee video, but I give no context or storytelling, I give
Exactly.
my people no context as to why this should matter. Sometimes just that simple share can go on deaf ears. So if you can just add a couple sentences of, guys, you got to see this video. Here's why it impacted me. That instantly makes it matter more. Another thing that I coach, my favorite book, where is it? It always sits on my desk. So I talk about this actually was the vision for my book. I talk about it in the book, right? My favorite book is called Steal Like an Artist.
Ooh,
And if for people that haven't read it, go buy it. It's unbelievable. And it's not even written for business people, it's written for literal artists, and it will change your life. And Jonathan, I still get tagged in dozens of posts a year by people taking a selfie with Still Like an Artist, and they don't thank Austin Kleon. They thank Kyle Draper.
absolutely.
And it is this unbelievable. So I tell people, like, I'm playing chess on social media while the rest of you are playing checkers. Because now, if you go buy this book, who do you think about every time you see it or open it?
Kyle Draper.
And isn't that crazy? You don't go think about the actual author that poured his blood, sweat, and tears into these pages. You think about the stupid guy that did a 43-second video about a quote from the book. And now all of a sudden, I'm like, everybody's going, "Oh, Kyle, thank you so much. Wow, that book really changed my life. It's incredible. I appreciate you so much." And I did nothing except create content that on the surface had no gain for me. It's just me being a giver. And so this is why, like, you will have, like, for go back to restaurants. If a restaurant was out there promoting other restaurants, if my favorite sushi place ends up being because my favorite taco place showed me it,
Mm,
I'm gonna think about the taco place when I'm eating at the sushi place.
so true.
This is the depth of psychology that is happening when we really start understanding the way we're posting and we stop making it about us. It's absolutely crazy.
N I love how everything we're talking about fits in with that first overall theme you talked about, which was serve others. Again,
Yep.
even with the book, recommend a book that's gonna have value to others and you gain by doing that. It's awesome. Kyle, talk to me a little bit about you shared so much knowledge with us today, and I'm so grateful for that and giving people an opportunity to get to know you. Talk to me a little bit about just let's be capitalists for a moment and talk to me
Sure.
a little bit about Coach Kyle. And if I'm a business leader out there and I'm going, all right, Kyle, you've convinced me I need to start. But I also know that just like all areas in my life, at least, I've got coaches that help me out in all kinds of areas. Talk to me about Coach Kyle. What can you do to help a business owner either get started
Yeah.
or really improve what they're doing in this area online?
Sure. So, Jonathan, I am a serial entrepreneur, and it's because I just think the more businesses I start, I'm gonna get lucky once at least, and hopefully one of them hits, right? And so
Understood.
I do multiple things. My favorite thing to do is to speak, and so I travel around the country speaking at conferences, putting on small trainings for companies, right? It looks totally different for what people need, and we talk about social media, we talk about mindset, we develop a strategy for their content so that when I come back home, they have this newfound confidence that, oh my gosh, we now understand storytelling, we understand how to be in front of the camera. Some of that fear has been removed, and so that's one thing that I do. I have a coaching company as well called Academy 18, where we work with realtors, lenders, small business owners, and we do live coaching. We have pre-recorded coaching sessions. And really more than anything, the hope for it is that it's cheap enough, right? It's under $100 a month. And we priced it that way because what most people need is accountability more than they need understanding. And
Mm,
so we wanted to be that opportunity for people to come alongside someone that's doing it better than them so that they can start and then continue. And so that's Academy 18. Then I have Content Compounding, which is currently my largest company. And what we do, and if we have time later, I'd love to tell the whole story of how this came about because it's pretty cool. But we have clients that send us long form video content. So they're sending us video content. Some of our clients are podcasts. Some of
mhm.
our clients are sending us 3 to 10 minute educational videos. And then our team, we edit the video for YouTube, upload it to YouTube for them. And then we rip out the best parts of each of their videos and then give them back 16 to 20 reels and TikToks and YouTube shorts every month so that by them investing under an hour into 4 videos, they're getting enough content to almost post every day of the month.
Oh, I
And so
love that.
so that's content compounding. And then I was like, "What else? I'm missing something." We just launched last Friday. We did a soft launch for what we call Higher Culture VA. And
Okay.
so we are a virtual assistant company that helps American companies we match them up with incredible people in the Philippines that can cover a multitude of tasks. And the reason we're doing this is, Jonathan, inside of my content compounding company, we have I think right now we have almost 15 full-time employees in the Philippines. And so we looked up and thought, "Holy cow, we've gotten really good at this.
Yeah.
Why are we not turning around and helping American companies find incredible people?" And so we did. And so that's just started. And man, it's so much fun. Like the being an entrepreneur, trying to continue to develop ways to reach and serve people.
Mm.
It's just my favorite game to play. And so that's where we're at so far. Oh yeah, and the book. I forgot about that part.
Absolutely.
My book came out April 1st, and I think it's a game changer for people that have struggled with social media and they need a fresh start. They need a kick in the butt. The book serves that purpose.
I think that's awesome, and I love to hear the serial entrepreneurs and the things you've got going. If you've got time, I'd love to hear talk to me about how did you get into content excuse me. Talk to me about how you did get into content compounding. Tell us that backstory. If you've got time, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, sure. 5 plus years ago, back then I was only working with realtors, and realtors are always looking for, I shouldn't say all of them. A lot of them are always looking for the easiest way to do anything. And that's probably true for all of us.
Sure.
And so I'm traveling, teaching people how to use video, but I'm getting a lot of feedback on this is really hard. Like I'm not sure like how to accomplish this. And so I created content compounding back then as just a teaching strategy, right? Gary Vee had come out a little bit before that and it just started talking about how we can mass create content And I'm going, man, we could do this for realtors. And so for 3 years, Jonathan, all I did was teach this concept when I taught classes. And so COVID happens, and I had what I would call my coming out party in November of 2019. I'd been grinding as a speaker, trying to get my name out there, and finally the National Association of Realtors invited me to speak at their national conference in November of 2019. I crushed that event. I booked dozens of speaking opportunities, and then boom, 4 months later, COVID happens.
Oh, wow.
And so I am met with just despair of what the heck? This is what I've been waiting for, what I've been fighting for, and now it's all taken away from me. And at the end of my pity party, I got a phone call from a former coaching client of mine, and she said, "Hey, you know that content compounding thing that you teach us? If I hired a teenager, could you teach them how to do that for me?" And Jonathan, the moment the last syllable came out of her mouth, boom, I was like, I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to create a company next week and we'll do it for you. You can be our first client. And so literally, I spun up content compounding as a company. About 4 days later, we sucked. It was horrible for at least a year. And so to this day, I'll still apologize when I run into people that were our original clients. I'm like, can I just remind you of how sorry that I am that we failed you so miserably? Because it was bad, but like anything, right? If we're not willing to suck at first, we're never going to start.
Absolutely.
And so now this summer will be 3 years with content compounding, and we're at we're getting close to 20 full-time staff members, and it's just unbelievable. And it would have never happened had COVID not forced me to think differently. And so it's something that we're really proud of.
I really appreciate you sharing that story, and boy, I gotta tell you, I want to encourage anybody watching this video and this podcast, if you need help with that, what Kyle's talking about here is absolutely amazing because it's what we do. I'm recording this podcast. We're going to create some shorts out of this and all that. I've
Yep.
got the team internally to do it, but I run a digital marketing agency. We've got these people on staff.
Right.
Most businesses don't. And if,
Right.
boy, the ability for you to spend an hour or two a month creating some quality video and know that your job as a business owner is done and they can send it to you and take care of it, that is a game changer. And it absolutely can turn somebody's world upside down when it comes to this in a very positive way. I love that.
Thank you.
Wow.
I think so too.
No, I love it. Absolutely love it. Kyle, you've shared so many amazing things here, and we're going to share all your details and all that. But before I let you go, I really want to ask one more question. We
Okay.
talk about the name of the show is the 91 Day Success Podcast. And the reason we did that is actually partly due to COVID and partly due to a book that I read during COVID that was put out by, oh, I've got it right here by Russell Brunson, 30 Days.
Oh yeah.
And in 30 days, Russell Brunson talks about, and he interviewed all kinds of people that use his ClickFunnels platform. If you had to start over and you had 30 days, what would you do? And I thought it was great, except the reality is 30 days isn't very long. It's not
That's
long at
fast.
all.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe with if you're running sales funnels and that online and selling virtual products, it might work. But for most of us, again, we talked about local, being in our communities, working in our communities. 30 days isn't enough to get a business built. So I thought 3 months is still short, but it's better. And of course, with 52 weeks, that looks like 91 days. So let me just ask you, if you had to start over and tomorrow they said, hey, Kyle, here's $1,000. You've got your house, your food, your family, you're good there. But
Sure.
there's $1,000 you got to invest in the business. What would you, Kyle, do in the first 91 days to build a new business? And what might that look like?
I Jonathan, I've listened to some of your episodes, and I'm probably the least qualified of all of your guests to answer this question. So just take this with a grain of salt, everybody that's listening. Man, I would do two things. One, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but I would say for the next 90 days, I will create at least 3 pieces of video content every day, and I will throw it on every single platform that will receive it, and I'm gonna bury my head in the sand when it comes to caring about the views that it's getting, the reach that it's getting. For 91 days, I will put out what's 90 times 3, right?
270. Yep.
273
Yep.
videos over the next 90 days. And I truly believe if that was the only thing somebody did, their business is gonna benefit from that. So that
Oh,
would
I
be
have
the
no
first
doubt.
thing. And how much of that $1,000 did I just have to spend? None of it. So that's the first thing that I would do.
Yep.
And then the second thing is I would look at what is my to-do list? What do I either suck at the most or what do I dislike doing the most? And then I would go get a VA that can take all of the man hours that you are going to have to grunt through so that you can take all of now your new available hours and go pour them in to whatever the things are that only you can do.
Mm,
Businesses 20 years ago didn't have access to VAs,
you're right.
right? They didn't have this. And so for people that are unfamiliar to it, right, minimum wage in the Philippines is under $1. So when I say we have people that we pay $3 an hour, on the surface, that sounds horrible. But when you understand things, that's triple minimum wage for some people, and they get to do it from their bedrooms. And so I would be maximizing the skill sets of others and getting your face out there as often as possible. And I think those two things put together would put you in a really good position 91 days in.
You're incredibly humble, but I think that's a great suggestion. It makes a lot of sense. It does bring up a follow-up question, and I'd love to get your thought on it. We haven't talked about it.
Okay.
So you talked in there about, hey, you don't need to spend a penny to do that, to get started. You really wouldn't. That, in my mind, means we need to talk about this little device.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a business owner, we all walk around with one. Every
Yep.
one of us has got a phone. Talk to me about why, and I'm going to guess you're going to favor this. We've not talked about it, but why can this phone be a great tool for video?
Gosh, we could do a whole episode on this.
Okay, fair enough.
Um,
We may have to. That would be good.
but I'll leave it with this. So there's research that shows the closer we're willing to put ourselves in the camera, the more it allows people to trust us.
Interesting.
And so if I let's say I took that $1,000 and I went and bought a bunch of nice equipment. That's great, but the more I look perfect in front of the camera, the less relatable I am to people. And so
Absolutely.
I do a lot of my video content with this thing right here because I want you to see the imperfections in my face. I have I had this big old pimple on the center of my nose, and literally this morning my wife was like, "You want me to put some cover up on that?" And I was like, "No. That is not authentic." Right? Like I'm a 40-year-old man that still gets pimples and people are going to see it today. And it's so authentic. And there's times, Jonathan, where I'll even go, "Holy cow, can you see how big that pimple is?" And I'll zoom and there's so many people that could go, "Gosh, that feels unprofessional." But that's not the world we live in anymore. And now maybe if you're a doctor listening to this, there's probably a different standard for you. But for most of us, we do pretty normal transactions with people where the only thing that people want is to know that they can trust the person on the other side of it. And so
Also,
that's the biggest thing for me with this device is I'm not trying to figure out like how do I perfect this device to make me look my best? I want to figure out how do I use this device to make me the most relatable.
mm,
And we happen to be the most relatable through our flaws more so than our strengths.
oh, good stuff. Good stuff. If you're open, I'm going to take you up on that possible
Come
offer
on.
that I'm going to turn it. I think we should do an episode on that. I think it would, anything we can do to encourage entrepreneurs and business owners to
Yeah.
start creating video in my mind. Again, I'm a digital marketer. I know the value of it. And I know you don't have to be perfect to start. You're the coach. You know how to encourage people. I would love to do that and show them, look, you've all got this phone. Use it and you'll be amazed at what happened. I'll even admit, I do a lot of them. A lot of my videos I do in my truck. Literally have a suction mount on my windshield and it keeps it up.
Yeah,
And everybody's like, why do you do them in your truck? We work with a lot of home service companies, and guess where do they spend their time? In their truck. They're
that's right.
driving around.
Yep,
And by the way, that's where I spend a lot of my time. And so it's just authentic. It's who I am. Is it perfect? No. My coat
yep.
may be on, it may be bent around, it may not look, there may be something in the back seat. My wife's always like, make sure your back seat's cleared up because we can see what's in the back seat of your truck. And I'm like, so what?
I like it, like, because you have small grandkids,
Yeah,
being able to see a car seat in the back, that makes you more relatable to people,
absolutely.
right? Most people would
Absolutely.
go, "Oh, we better remove the car seat, we better." I The reason I do my background like I have, the reason you have your background like you have, because the things that you can see tell stories about me that don't need words, and it allows you to feel more connected while I'm saying whatever I'm saying, and you connected to the Luca toy
Yeah,
behind me. And so
exactly.
I'm a big fan of putting things in our background that help people get to know us better.
This has been absolutely amazing. Kyle, I promised you it wouldn't take much more than half an hour. We spent nearly 50 minutes talking. I feel like I could talk to you for another 3 hours.
I've
This has
loved
been
it.
amazing. Thank you so much. Last question for you. A lot of people are listening to this podcast while they're driving down the road and they're going, okay, I don't have a place to write anything down. Talk to me, tell me, I need to reach out to Kyle. What's the best way to do that that's going to stick in my memory till I get to my office and I can make a note?
KyleDraper.com.
Perfect. So
It's got
easy.
everything.
Awesome. Great. Well, hey, if you've stuck with us through the entire podcast, and I hope you have, I know you just got some incredibly great golden nuggets right there at the end. I want to really thank Kyle for his effort, and we're going to be back on because I'm going to take Kyle up. We're going to do this session on how to use your phone and get started here. I know it's something that you guys are all interested in, and I'd love to get Kyle's expertise on that. So, with that, I want to thank everybody. Have an amazing day, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks again, Kyle.
Thanks for having me.